It's a whole new world where the gymnast gets a little more help. Imagine how the gymnasts of yesteryear feel watching today's guys tumbling on something like this. Underneath the carpet, you've got 3 inches of very bouncy foam, followed by plywood, and then underneath that's a 4-inch coiled spring. That's a lot of bounce. Not much difference over the years on pommel horse, except that the horse is wider, it's more cushioned, and the pommels are flat on top, not round. It gives the athlete more room to maneuver. The only big change on rings over the years are those springs above my head for more rebound. The key to spring on vault is the springs underneath the board and now underneath the horse. You think that the parallel bars are nothing but 2 rails of wood. Actually, they're a graphite composite with a wood laminate for much more height off the bars. The high bar is a bit wider than it was 30 years ago. Gives you more spring.
Equipment has improved in that, in many cases, it's more forgiving. When mats became softer and foam pits came around, even the large pit mats that we use in our gyms, you could miss a lot more and get more chances.
With peace of mind and the ever-improving technology, gymnasts are compelled to constantly try bigger and better routines.
What was done only 4 years ago is no longer top level anymore. And many times what was done last year is not good enough to win. In our sport, in all the sports there are, the Olympic sports, there's none that moves faster, it changes quicker than men's gymnastics.
Once barriers are broken, like Mitch Gaylord's patented Gaylord 2, the whole sport reacts and reaches new heights. And there's no telling how far they'll go.
It's sort of scary that people can actually do these things. I mean, when you sit down and you think about it, what that person's doing, you know, they're jumping off their feet basically and flipping over twice and twisting twice and then landing back on their feet and not moving. It's really pretty amazing that a human being can do that.
And I think our athletes will continue to flip until they can do the quad or however far they need to go to make gymnastics the best sport in the world.
And some of these spectators here, Tim, have contributed to the development of the sport, like Husker Jim Hartung, Patrick Kirksey, training to make that 92 Olympic team, and Phil Cahoy.
So it'll be Jeff Bender for Stanford on the rings now, and talking about innovation, watching him in the preliminaries, we know he's got a trick in this routine that's pretty innovative.
Yeah, this is something that a lot of gymnasts are doing now that was never even heard of years ago, where you actually turn and cross the straps. First, Jeff does his L cross. Now watch this. Does a half turn, swings backwards, goes through the straps, turns back around, and now he's straight again. Now this is really smart for Jeff too, because he capitalizes on an innovation. He's not particularly powerful on the rings, not a super strong gymnast. So he does something innovative with his swing, and it makes up for it.
Part of Coach Hamada's strategy for Stanford to put in some originality in every routine they can.
A little Yamawaki right to a layout full twist. Not a very difficult dismount, but it's kind of unique. Let's take a look at where he crosses the straps. Looks like he's going into a back uprise. Then he does a half turn, swings through the straps, does what we call a whip it, does his half turn again, and right up to a straddle L.
So Bender's originality contributes to a score of 9.55 for Stanford. And the Cardinal holds the lead, but Nebraska has closed the margin some after 3 rotations. In Lincoln, Nebraska, they love Cornhusker gymnastics. And during the championships, all 7 national championship trophies won by the University of Nebraska were on display in this downtown local store. And after the 3rd rotation, as competition continues, Stanford with a narrow lead over Nebraska. Ohio State has fallen out of contention for the title. Well, Peter, in addition to the team championship being settled here in Lincoln, also the all-around and individual apparatus titles are at stake.
That's right, and many of these athletes have a chance to make that 1992 Olympic team, so we could see some of these performances in Barcelona. They got a lot of work cut out for them because there's a lot of guys that aren't in college now that are still training to make that team, but many of these guys could be there.
Okay, well, let's take a look at some of the winning performances. In the all-around competition, it was John Roethlisberger from Minnesota.
This is John's second all-around title, edging out Scott Keswick of UCLA. John definitely has a great chance to make the 1992 Olympic team. He's one of our finest gymnasts in this country, and his form shows right here. He also gets a good hug from his dad and coach, Fred.
It's a good stepping stone. It builds your confidence as far as competing against the top guys. You know, there's a lot of guys here that are going to be shooting for the Olympic team. And, you know, to come out on top against those guys, it's a good confidence builder.
The individual title in floor exercise was won by freshman Brian Winkler of Michigan.
And talk about handling pressure. He had to overcome two 9.9 performances from Jason Brown of Brigham Young and John Roethlisberger of Minnesota. He scored a 9.95.
On vault, the winner was Jason Hebert of Syracuse.
Syracuse, not a real gymnastics power, but look at this powerful vault. A laid-out Cuervo.
Well, Nebraska fans had something to cheer about when Che Bowers was the winner on the pommel horse.
And no real deductions here. Look at Che working backwards across the horse without the pommels. Now he uses the pommels to go up across the other way. Very strong pommel horseman. Here's his flares into that scissor break. Does a couple scissors, which meets the requirement for the pendulum swing. Sets up for the dismount, right up to a handstand. Fantastic performance to win the title.
Jair Lynch having an outstanding meet for Stanford's team effort. Also the winner in the horizontal bar.
And Jair is such a spectacular gymnast to watch. Everything that he does is really with good amplitude, a lot of innovation. If he can just get his compulsories up in the all-around competition, he'll be a factor in international competition.
On the parallel bars, 1988 Olympian Dominic Minicucci from Temple was the winner.
And Dominique started out his college career at the University of Illinois, but he finished it off at Temple University. He actually placed 6th in the all-around. He's really trying to make that 1992 Olympic team. Got his work cut out for him, but he's a very strong and powerful gymnast.
And on the still ring, Scotty Keswick of UCLA.
Scott placed 2nd in the all-around to John Roethlisberger. He was our #1 gymnast at the recent World Gymnastics Championships last year, and definitely has a great shot of making that 1992 Olympic team. This was an exciting performance, and it finished with a spectacular landing on his double twisting, double back dismount. Coming up. Scott was excited about this title.
I'm 3 times national champion at the USA Championships, but I've never made finals at NCAAs. So, you know, winning my first time out in finals, that's a great feeling.
Well, a special part of championship week is the annual coaches banquet where 78-year-old George Nissen does his annual handstand and then presents the trophy named for him to the nation's top senior gymnast. So Scott Keswick of UCLA, the winner of the Nissen Award, and another famous UCLA gymnast won that so-called Heisman Trophy of Gymnastics, our own Peter Vidmar. That must have been quite a thrill.
Yeah, it really was. The trophy's huge, and I just have no place to put it at home, so I leave it to Scott. Joins a great group of guys that are training really hard right now, and he's got an excellent chance to make that team, as do many others that are here today.
All right, well, the competition continues here shortly to settle the NCAA championship, and we'll be back with the action after these words from your local station. Athletic Director Bob Devaney joins Coach Francis Allen here to offer a little encouragement as it's a head-to-head battle. Nebraska and Stanford now. Jeff Bender of the Cardinal ready for the vault.
Jeff does an unusual vault, and it's very difficult to land. It's a handspring with 2 twists. Very difficult to see the ground. There's the 2 twists. Oh, big over rotation. That's a major deduction. They're going to have to hit all 5 vaults so they can eliminate the score he gets here.
Stanford with a narrow lead over Nebraska. Meanwhile, Sumner Darling will be up on the parallel bars for Nebraska. Bender gets a 9.1. Not a great score. Things are tightening up.
Sumner's a good, solid gymnast. Up to a handstand. He's going to start with what we call a Healy twirl. He does 2 in a row. Very difficult sequence. It's called a stutz. These are called back tosses.
Crowd starting to get into this as the competition is narrowed between Nebraska and Stanford.
They know Nebraska has a chance, and with a dismount like that, they're definitely in the ballgame.
Sophomore Sumner Darling from Sarasota, Florida. Francis Allen and Bob Devaney like that performance. And so do the former stars here at Nebraska. That was Phil Cahoy you saw. 9.725 for Sumner Darling. Let's go! Now Tim Ryan on the vault. I offered to trade my brains for this Tim Ryan's body. Turned me down.
He's going to have to hit this vault. This body better work for him. They got to hit all their vaults. A layout Sukahara with a full twist. I think his knee touched the ground. If it did, it's going to be a deduction. This could drop them back in the competition. Let's take a look at the vault. It's called a layout Sukahara. He does it with a full twist as he comes around. Yeah, his right knee touched. They're going to take a big deduction there. Stanford's going to be in trouble.
So Tim Ryan, a score of just 9.35, and that's 2 low scores in a row for Stanford. Meanwhile, Dennis Harrison ready on the parallel bars. Harrison, his father Jerry from Omaha, and very aware of the great gymnastics tradition here at Nebraska. Many of the former stars here cheering them on. It means a lot.
I'm from native of Nebraska, so I've grown up, you know, all those years, you know, 79, 80 when they were winning, you know, 5 championships in a row. And, you know, my idols were Jim Hartzung and Phil Cahoy. You know, I've looked to them for years for, you know, for them to give me encouragement and leadership, and I just been following them, you know, and I would love to be able to walk in their footsteps, you know. It's just an incredible feeling when you're, you know, training in the same gym as those guys. And if you want to be the best, you know, in American gymnastics, all you have to do is get to be the best in our gym.
So Harrison on the parallel bars, second in the all-around in the West Regionals. This is a good event for him.
That was a nice straight-arm peach basket to a handstand, a very difficult mount. Two difficult skills here. These are double Healy twirls as he rotates on one arm. There's his stutz. Right on target so far. He's really nailing this routine. Little straddle cut to an L. Dennis is going to set up now for a dismount. Does a hard one. And a double pike. A little hop in the landing. That's a deduction, but it's a great routine. Very solid.
All right, let's go. The sophomore leader of this young Nebraska team, Dennis Harrison.
His only real mistake came in this dismount. It's a double pike. As he comes around, just under rotates a bit and has to take that hop forward.
Well, Peter, for Dennis Harrison, a score of 9.65. And the Cornhuskers have crept back into the lead over Stanford after 4 rotations. The Cardinal will be on the parallel bars in rotation number 5, and they're getting themselves psyched for it.